My beloved child, there is a distance that grows not in miles but in moments, not in grand departures but in small postponements. You did not walk away from me in a single dramatic step. You drifted the way a boat drifts when no one holds the rope, slowly, quietly, without announcement, until one morning you look up and the shore seems further than you remember. And what breaks my heart is not that you left. It is that you did not even notice the leaving. I see the life you are carrying right now, the weight of it, the texture of it, the way it presses against your chest when you lie down at night and refuses to let you fully rest. You smile when people ask how you are doing. You say the right words. You show up where you are needed, but inside, beloved, inside there is a room you have kept closed for a long time. A room where the real you lives, the tired you, the confused you, the one who whispers in the dark. I don't know how much longer I can keep doing this. I hear that whisper. I have always heard it, even when you thought no one was listening. Do you remember the days when speaking to me felt like breathing? When worship was not a task, but a relief? When you would come to me not because you had to, but because something in you ached to be near me? I remember those days too. I treasure them. And I want you to know they are not gone forever. They are not a season you have lost. They are a place you can return to. Because I have not moved. I have not grown cold toward you. I have not looked away in disappointment. I have been here, constant, waiting, not with arms crossed in judgment, but with arms open in longing. A father does not stop being a father because a child wanders. He simply waits and watches. And the moment that child turns toward home, he runs. The distance you feel between us right now was not built in a day. It was built in the accumulated weight of 100 small choices. The morning you said later to prayer and later never came. The evening you chose noise over stillness because stillness had started to feel uncomfortable. The week you avoided my word because somewhere deep down you feared what I might say to you, or worse, what you might feel if you sat in my presence long enough to be honest. Beloved, I understand all of it. I do not say this to condemn you. I say it because I want you to see clearly. You cannot heal what you will not name. And what you have been living with is a slow spiritual hunger, a soul eating from the scraps of a faith it once experienced in fullness, and scraps were never meant to sustain you. There is something happening in the invisible world right now that your natural eyes cannot perceive. Doors are being positioned, seasons are shifting, a chapter is preparing to open in your life that requires more from you spiritually than you currently have the capacity to carry. And that is why I am speaking to you today. Not when everything is fine. Not when you are strong and confident and full. I am speaking to you now, in the middle of your depletion, because this is precisely the moment that matters most. The enemy knows what is coming for you. He has seen the assignment written over your life, and he has been working methodically to ensure that when the door opens, you are too empty to walk through it. His strategy has never been dramatic. It has been subtle, patient, consistent. A little distraction here, a little discouragement there, a slow cooling of your desire until one day the fire that once burned so brightly in you is reduced to the faintest ember. But even an ember, my child, even the faintest ember is enough for me to work with. I do not need a roaring flame to begin again. I only need your willingness to turn back toward me and let me breathe on what remains. So today I am asking you for something simple. Not a grand spiritual performance, not a 3-hour prayer vigil, not a perfect confession that covers every mistake of the past year. I am asking for honesty. Come to me as you are, tired and uncertain and carrying things you do not know how to put down. Come with the real version of yourself, not the version you present to others, not the version you think I want to see. Come as you are right now, because when you stop performing and start being real with me, that is when genuine restoration begins. That is when the room in your soul that has been closed and cold and quietly aching finally gets to open. And I promise you this, what waits for you on the other side of that honest return is not a lecture. It is not a list of everything you did wrong. What waits for you is rest, real rest. The kind that settles into the deepest parts of you and quiets what has been restless for far too long. Come back. I am already running toward you. My precious child, there are seeds that grow without sunlight. Seeds planted not in gardens, but in the hidden corners of your mind, watered not by intention but by attention. Every time you return to a thought, you water it. Every time you rehearse a fear, you give it roots. Every time you replay a wound, you give it a little more space in the soil of your soul. And what you have been feeding in the dark, the worries you turn over at 2 a.m, the what-ifs that follow you through your ordinary days, the quiet beliefs that say you are not enough, or that good things never last for you, or that you will always end up alone in your struggle. These are not just passing feelings. They are seeds becoming something. And if you do not tend to what grows in the hidden soil of your inner life, you will one day find yourself surrounded by a forest you do not remember planting. I need you to understand something about how spiritual attack works. Because many of my children are looking for the enemy in the wrong places. They scan the horizon for dramatic opposition. They wait for the loud moment, the obvious crisis, the clear and unmistakable assault. But the most effective work the enemy does in your life is quiet. It is interior. It begins with a suggestion so small you barely notice it. A thought that whispers, God has forgotten about you. A feeling that settles in after a hard day and says, nothing you do matters. A slow erosion of the belief that I am good, that I am near, that I have not abandoned you to figure this out alone. These are not random thoughts. They are targeted, specific to you, designed to dismantle the very foundation of trust that makes our relationship possible. And beloved, when you entertain them without bringing them to me, when you turn them over and examine them and give them your attention without holding them up to the light of my truth, they grow. They intertwine with your emotions. They begin to shape your decisions. They change how you pray, how you worship, how you walk through the day. This is the real battlefield, not out there, in here. Now, let me tell you what I see when I look at you, because it is vastly different from what you see when you look at yourself. You look at your failures and see evidence of unworthiness. I look at your failures and see a heart that keeps trying. You look at your inconsistency and see proof that you are not serious about your faith. I look at your inconsistency and see someone fighting a war they did not fully understand was happening. You look at your silence in prayer and see abandonment of me. I look at your silence and see exhaustion, and exhaustion is something I am deeply acquainted with. I came to earth in a body. I know what it feels like to be human and tired. I know what it means to carry something heavy. I know what it is to need rest so desperately that you fall asleep in a boat in the middle of a storm. I am not distant from your humanity. I entered it. And everything you feel in your weakness I understand from the inside.
I need you to understand why some of those prayers have taken longer than you ever imagined they would. It is not because you are less deserving. It is not because I forgot. It is not because the answer is no. Sometimes the answer is not yet. Because what I am preparing for you requires a version of you that did not yet exist when you first prayed. The you that prayed that prayer years ago was not yet ready to steward what the answer would bring. The walking, the waiting, the suffering, the surviving, all of it has been building the capacity inside you to carry what is coming. And what is coming is significant, not just for your life, but for the lives of the people your life will touch. I had to make you ready. And now, my child, you are closer to ready than you have ever been. Let me speak now about what is ahead, because I did not bring you to this moment only to comfort the past. I brought you here to prepare you for the future. And the future that is approaching your life is bigger than anything your wounded heart has dared to picture in a very long time. You have been living small, my child. Not because you are small, but because pain has a way of shrinking the world down to the size of the wound. When you have been hurt enough times, the imagination stops reaching outward and starts only calculating risk. You stopped seeing the open field and started only seeing where the fences are. You stopped dreaming about what could be and started only managing what is. And I understand why. I truly do. But I need your imagination to open again. I need your heart to dare to want again. Because what I am bringing requires you to have room inside you to receive it. I need you to make space. So let me tell you what is coming. There are people coming into your life who will restore something that was taken from you. People who will look at you and not look away. People who will stay when staying costs them something. People who will choose you not because of what you can give them, but because of who you are. Real connection is coming. The kind that heals the part of you that stopped believing anyone could truly see you and still want to be close. That loneliness you have been carrying. It is not your permanent address. It is a season. And the season is shifting. There are open doors coming that will make sense of all the closed ones. There are opportunities approaching that will feel like the moment you have been working toward without knowing what you are working toward. There are breakthroughs coming in the areas where you have been fighting the longest and seeing the least movement. The walls that have seemed immovable, some of them are already beginning to crack from the other side in ways you cannot yet see. Keep pressing. Keep showing up. Keep doing the next right thing even when it feels like nothing is changing, because change is already in motion. There is healing coming to the places inside you that you have already written off. Wounds you have decided are just part of who you are now. Parts of your heart you have accepted as permanently broken. I want you to let go of that acceptance. I want you to stop agreeing with the damage as though it is your identity. You are not your wounds. You are not your history. You are not the sum of everything that broke you. You are my child, and I specialize in making things new, in restoring what was stolen, in rebuilding what was ruined, in bringing life back to places that looked like they were finished. Nothing in you is beyond my restoration. Nothing you carry is too far gone for my healing. Nothing you have lost is fully outside the reach of my redemption. And there is peace coming. A settled, rooted, unshakable peace. Not the kind that pretends everything is perfect.
My beloved, I want to speak to you about something you have been doing for a very long time, something so deeply ingrained you may not even recognize it anymore. You have been carrying things that were never meant to be yours to carry. I see it in the way your shoulders hold tension even when there is no immediate crisis. I see it in the way your mind races ahead, rehearsing every possible problem, preparing for every potential disaster, as though if you just think hard enough and worry carefully enough, you can somehow prevent the painful things from finding you. You have turned vigilance into a way of life. You have turned worry into a form of control. And what began as an attempt to protect yourself has become a cage that follows you everywhere you go. There is a kind of weariness that does not come from working too hard. It comes from holding too much, from gripping things so tightly that your hands ache, from refusing to set things down because somewhere in you there is a fear that if you let go, everything will fall apart, that if you stop monitoring the situation, it will collapse, that if you stop trying to manage the outcome, the worst will happen, and it will somehow be your fault. My child, I need you to hear this clearly. That kind of carrying is not faith. It is fear that has dressed itself in the language of responsibility, and I am not calling you to live that way. I never was. Think of the disciples in the boat when the storm came. The waves were real, the wind was real, the danger was not imagined. And yet what did I ask of them? I asked them to trust me in the storm, not to pretend the storm was not happening, not to muster enough positive thinking to calm themselves down, but to trust that I was present, that I was aware, that I had authority over everything raging around them. And when they woke me, not as a last resort after they had exhausted every other option, but as the first response, I acted. I did not rebuke the storm first. I asked them a question. Why are you afraid? Do you still have no faith? Because I wanted them to understand something essential. The storm was not the real problem. The real problem was the belief that I was absent or indifferent or unable. And beloved, that is the same question I am asking you today. Not in accusation, in invitation. Why are you afraid? Not why are you facing difficulty? Difficulty is real. Not why are you in a storm? Storms come. But why, in the middle of everything you are walking through, have you not yet fully turned to me and said, I trust you with this? The weight you are carrying belongs to me. Not because I am taking something from you, but because I am the only one actually equipped to hold it. You were not designed to carry tomorrow's burdens today. You were not built to sustain the weight of outcomes you cannot control. You were not created to be both the one who prays and the one who answers the prayer. That is my role. And when you try to occupy both spaces at once, you will always end up crushed. I am not asking you to be passive. I am not asking you to disengage from your life, to stop making decisions or taking steps forward. I am asking you to do your part and then genuinely release the rest. To work as though it depends on you, and then pray as though it depends entirely on me. Because it does. It always has. And every moment you have spent trying to hold things together that only I can hold together has been a moment of unnecessary suffering. Here is what I want to offer you in exchange for the weight. Rest. Not the rest of escapism, not the rest of someone who has given up, but the deep, settled rest of someone who knows they are covered. The rest that comes when you finally believe, truly believe, not just theoretically, but in the bones of you, that I am working on your behalf even when you cannot see it, even when the evidence is invisible, even when the timeline makes no sense, even when the people around you are asking questions you cannot answer. There is a peace available to you that passes understanding. Not a peace that makes sense given your circumstances. A peace that exists in defiance of your circumstances because it is rooted not in what is happening around you, but in who I am. And who I am does not change. I was faithful before you were born. I will be faithful long after this season has passed. Every promise I have ever made stands. Not one word has fallen. Not one plan has been abandoned. Not one person I have loved has been left to face their life without my presence. And you are no exception. So let go, not of faith, not of hope, not of the things I have placed in your hands to steward, but let go of the control that was never yours to have. Let go of the fear that says if you are not managing everything, then nothing is being managed. Let go and let me be what I have always been and always will be. The one who holds all things together, including you, especially you. My child, I want to tell you about the hour before the dawn, because you are in it right now, and you need to know what it means. The hour before the dawn is the darkest hour. Not because the darkness is at its strongest, but because the eyes are at their most exhausted. It is the hour when the night has been so long that the mind begins to make agreements with despair. It is the hour when the body is so tired and the soul is so worn that the thought begins to form, maybe the morning is not actually coming. Maybe this is just how things are now. Maybe I was wrong to hope. Maybe I have been waiting for something that was never meant for me. My beloved, if you have been in this hour, I need you to know something absolutely certain. The darkness you are experiencing right now is not evidence that the morning has been canceled. It is evidence that you are close. Closer than you have been in a long time. The enemy knows the hour before the dawn better than you do. He has studied it. He has watched countless of my children walk through it and turn back just before breakthrough arrived. He knows exactly how to use the exhaustion of that final hour to make surrender feel reasonable. He whispers in the language of fatigue. He does not come to you with dramatic arguments. He simply points to how long you have been waiting and suggests, gently, that perhaps you have been believing for something that will not come. And in the weakness of that long night, when your faith is worn thin and your emotions have been stretched past their comfortable limits, that whisper can feel like wisdom. Beloved, it is not wisdom. It is the oldest trick the enemy has. He does not need to defeat you. He only needs to make you quit. And the most devastating quits always happen in the hour before the dawn. Let me tell you about Jacob. He wrestled through the entire night. From darkness until dawn, he struggled. And the wrestling was real. The discomfort was real. The weariness was real. But he refused to let go. Even when the wrestling had continued so long that his body was in pain, even when continuing felt unreasonable, even when everything in him wanted to stop, he held on and said, "I will not let go until you bless me." And the blessing came, not in spite of the long night, because of it. Because in that night Jacob discovered something about himself he could not have found any other way. He discovered that he would not quit, that his faith was not conditional on comfort, that his trust in me could outlast his comfort. And that discovery changed him from the inside out. His name changed that night. His identity changed, because who we become in the long, dark wrestle is not the same person who entered it. You are being changed in your long night too, even if you cannot feel it, even if you cannot see it. The wrestling is forming something in you that ease never could. Now hear me carefully. I am not saying that your suffering has no end. I am not asking you to make peace with darkness as a permanent address. What I am saying is this: do not make the decision to quit in your darkest hour. Do not make the most significant choice of your spiritual life at the moment of your greatest exhaustion, because the assessment you make of your situation at your lowest point is not an accurate assessment. When you are depleted and weary and the night has been long, you cannot see clearly. Your emotions are telling you the story is over when I am still writing it. Your circumstances are suggesting that the door is closed when I am about to open it wider than you have dared to imagine. The feelings you have right now are real. I do not dismiss them, but feelings are not prophecy. Exhaustion is not revelation. And the conclusion your weariness is drawing does not have my authority behind it. This is what I am asking from you in the hour before the dawn. Just hold on. Not forever. Not with some vague and indefinite endurance. But just through this night. Just through this particular stretch of hard and confusing and uncertain. Do not make a permanent decision based on a temporary darkness. Do not close a door I am preparing to open. Do not walk away from a promise I have not yet fulfilled. Do not allow the fatigue of the process to convince you that there is no destination. The morning is coming. I have ordained it, and everything I ordain comes to pass, not on your timeline. Not always in the shape you imagined it, but it comes. And when it does, when the light begins to break through and you stand in the reality of what I was always working toward, you will understand why I kept asking you to hold on just a little longer. You will see that every moment of the long night had purpose. And you will discover that the person standing in the dawn is stronger, deeper, and more genuinely rooted in me than the person who entered the night. The morning is not canceled, it is coming, and you were made to see it. My beloved child, not every voice that speaks to you about your life deserves a seat at the table of your heart. And one of the most important things I want to teach you as you grow deeper in your walk with me is the discipline of discernment. The ability to distinguish between what is true and what merely sounds reasonable. Between what is mine and what is cleverly disguised as mine, between the voice that builds you and the voice that slowly, systematically dismantles the confidence I have placed within you. Because, beloved, you have been listening to some voices you should have stopped giving access to a long time ago, and the spiritual toll of that has been greater than you realize. There is the voice of comparison. You know this voice. It speaks every time you look at someone else's life and feel the quiet ache of what you do not yet have. It is sophisticated in the way it operates. It does not always sound like jealousy. Sometimes it sounds like self-assessment. Sometimes it sounds like motivation. It says, look at where they are. Look at what they have built. Look at how put together their life appears. And in looking, it draws your gaze away from your own path, your own season, your own assignment, and fixes it on a race you were never entered in. Comparison is one of the most effective tools the enemy uses. My beloved child, not every voice that speaks to you about your life deserves a seat at the table of your heart, and one of the most important things I want to teach you as you grow deeper in your walk with me is the discipline of discernment, the ability to distinguish between what is true and what merely sounds reasonable, between what is mine and what is cleverly disguised as mine, between the voice that builds you and the voice that slowly, systematically dismantles the confidence I have placed within you. Because, beloved, you have been listening to some voices you should have stopped giving access to a long time ago, and the spiritual toll of that has been greater than you realize. There is the voice of comparison. You know this voice. It speaks every time you look at someone else's life and feel the quiet ache of what you do not yet have. It is sophisticated in the way it operates. It does not always sound like jealousy. Sometimes it sounds like self-assessment. Sometimes it sounds like motivation. It says, look at where they are. Look at what they have built. Look at how put together their life appears. And in looking, it draws your gaze away from your own path, your own season, your own assignment, and fixes it on a race you were never entered in. Comparison is one of the most effective tools the enemy uses against my children because it is self-administered. He does not have to whisper much. He only has to show you enough of someone else's highlight and let your own insecurity do the rest. Every moment you spend measuring your life against another person's is a moment you are not walking in the direction I set for you. Every time you allow comparison to take root, you are essentially telling me that what I have given you and where I have placed you is not sufficient. That my plan for your life is somehow less than his plan for someone else's. My child, that is a lie. And it is a lie I need you to stop agreeing with. There is the voice of past failure. This one speaks in specific and detailed language. It knows exactly which memories to surface. It knows the exact words that were spoken over you in seasons of weakness. It replays the moments you fell short, the decisions you regret, the times you tried something and it did not work. And it uses all of that as evidence for a verdict that says, this is what you are. This is the pattern. This is your ceiling. And beloved, many of my children are living under a ceiling that only exists because they keep agreeing with this verdict. They have stopped attempting things I have called them to because the voice of past failure has convinced them that the outcome is already determined. But I need you to understand something about how I view your past. I do not hold it the way the enemy holds it. I do not retrieve it as evidence against you. I have dealt with it, covered it, redeemed it. And I have an extraordinary habit of taking the places where people fell and building from those very places something more beautiful than what stood before. Your failures are not the final word about you. My word about you is the final word about you. And I say you are capable of more than your worst moment. I say the ceiling the enemy has assigned you is not real. I say the next chapter has not been written yet, and I am holding the pen. There is the voice of unworthiness. This one is perhaps the most persistent and the most damaging. It agrees with every good thing you attempt and then undercuts it. You pray and the voice says, does someone like you really think this prayer reaches heaven? You step into something new and the voice says, who do you think you are? You experience a moment of joy and the voice says, enjoy it while it lasts, because you know it will not. This is not humility. I need you to understand the difference. Genuine humility knows its dependence on me. It does not diminish what I have made or minimize what I have called. Unworthiness is not humility. It is a spiritual state the enemy cultivates because a person convinced of their own unworthiness will never fully step into the calling I have prepared for them. They will hold back at every threshold. They will volunteer for less than they were designed for. They will receive my promises with one hand, while the other hand pushes them away. And all the while they will believe they are being appropriately modest, when in truth they are believing a lie about what I made when I made them. I want you to begin practicing something. When a voice speaks and it does not align with what I have said, name it. Do not just feel it and absorb it. Name it. Say aloud, "That is not true. That is not my Father's voice. That is not who I am or where I am going." This is not denial. This is spiritual warfare. You are not pretending the thought did not come. You are refusing to give it authority. You are exercising the right I gave you to choose what you agree with. And every time you do this, every time you choose my voice over the noise of comparison and failure and unworthiness, you are taking back territory in your inner world that the enemy has occupied for far too long. The battle for your life begins in the battle for your mind, and the weapon that wins that battle is the truth I have spoken. Wear it, speak it, believe it. Let it be louder than every other voice until mine is the only one shaping how you see yourself and your future. My child, I want to speak to you about what is coming, not in vague spiritual language designed to comfort you temporarily and leave you in the same place you were before. I want to speak to you specifically, with the kind of clarity that settles something in the deepest part of you and changes how you face tomorrow morning, because there is a new season standing at the door of your life, and I need you to know what it requires and what it promises and why everything you have been walking through has been, in ways you are only beginning to understand, preparation for it. You have been in a season of formation. Seasons of formation do not always feel holy. They often feel like loss, like delay, like being passed over, like watching other people step into things you prayed for while you remained in what seemed like the same place. But my child, the ground was never still beneath you even when everything looked static. I was working in the hidden places, in the character, in the patience, in the parts of you that needed to be strengthened before they could carry the weight of what I was preparing to give you. A tree does not grow its root system above the ground where everyone can see and appreciate it. The growth that matters most happens in the dark, in the dirt, in the hidden stretching toward water that no one observes. And what you are about to step into requires roots, deep roots, not roots formed by easy seasons, but by the long ones. By the ones where you kept choosing faith when everything in you wanted to choose something else. By the ones where you stayed close to me when the pressure to drift was enormous. Those roots are yours. No one can take them, and everything that is coming will require them.